Hello everybody, welcome back to the Spoked Wheel YouTube channel. Today we're back with episode 22 of the Andy Schleck Pro Cyclist Mode series. And episode 22 is going to be the final episode of our first season, riding for Leopard Cycling Team. We've got 3 more races before the end of the year. The most exciting of the 3 should be the Piccolo Lombardia, which is the U23 version of Il Lombardia, one of cycling's 5 monuments. I'd love to get a win in this race to finish off the season because probably can't win on this race. It's a little bit too flat for us, and then we're ending off with a time trial, so probably won't win there either. So the race in Lombardia is our best bet to grab one more win before the season ends. Let's get right into the racing. We're going to go through the races and then take a look at a few things to wrap up the season. Okay, we're underway at the Piccolo Lombardia. Our team wants us to be the leader for this race, and they want us to finish in the top 5, which is a pretty solid goal, I think. We have a +1 race day condition on the day, so that +2 to our hill rating, I think, will be particularly important for this race. Some of our old friends from the Tour de l'Avenir, Aliotti and Van den Bell, are both here at this race, so they should be riders to watch out for because we saw that they're both talented climbers in their own right. But I think we could be a pretty good bet to get that top 5 that our team wants from us. The race is definitely going to come down to these final 2 little climbs towards the finish, so we're just going to try and stay in the best position and be ready once we get to those climbs. We're on the first of these 2 little climbs here towards the end of the race. Right now we have our teammate Miguel Heidemann setting a nice tempo to try and put other contenders into difficulty as Andy Schleck moves up towards the front of the pack. And Heidemann is done, so I think it's time for us to go on the offensive and see if we can get a gap over the top of this first climb. I don't really trust our sprint to win a race like this, so I think we need to attack on both of these climbs to try and basically eliminate anyone who is strong in the sprint. But that attack did a good amount of damage because we have Van Gils and Giovanni Aliotti with us for company. So if we can keep this sort of grouping on the road, we'll be a shoo-in for a podium. So that would be a solid result. Although there are riders coming across who are not too far back of us. But we're going to keep riding with these guys and perhaps try and attack again on the final climb. Heading into the final climb here, the group of 3 has turned into a group of 4 because Henry Van den Bell has bridged across and made contact. He's gone right to the front and started setting pace. I'm going to attack here on this steepest part of this final climb to try and get away from these riders and see if we can't go solo, but Aliotti and Van Gils immediately respond. It looks like Van den Bell is not quite able to do so. Let's use our energy gel into the last 5 kilometers here. But yeah, there's a big group right behind us of 24 riders, so we need to keep riding here to try and come to the line with these 3 guys, or else we're not going to get that top 5. So I think by riding here we might be sacrificing our chances in the sprint a little bit, but I think it's necessary to try and secure the podium and prevent getting out-sprinted by guys in that group of 24. So we head now into the final kilometer. Let's open up the sprint. Van Gils looked like he got off to a good start. We're around the final bend. It's going to be very close for the win. And we're going to take it. Andy Schleck wins the U23 Il Lombardia ahead of Maxime Van Gils and Giovanni Aliotti. So we did not sacrifice our chances in the sprint by riding. It was really close. I think that bend in the final few hundred meters kind of threw a wrench into things, but great win for Andy Schleck there in the final video of the season. We're into the second race of the video, which also happens to be the final road race of the season. Our team wants us to ride at the head of the group for 20 kilometers, so that's what we're currently doing. We're just going to focus on doing that and then basically taking it easy and seeing who wins the sprint, because it's not going to be us, but there are a couple interesting names. I think David Decker Enzo Wouters and Stanislaw Anelkowski are all here, so all riders that we've seen contend for wins in similar races this season. We're heading into the final 3 kilometers of this race now. We're following the wheel of Adam Topolik here. Looks like David Decker's team is giving him a nice lead out. So we'll see if he can take it into the final kilometer. We got Banasek as well. Enzo Wouters through the middle, going to take it rather easily in the end, ahead of Adam Topolik and Pavel Frankaz. Not sure how to say that name, but we wind up in 12th place in our final road race of the season. We're out of the start house in the final race of our season. It's a time trial, which is not exactly our forte. There's lots of World Tour teams here, and our team gave us the "it will be difficult to get a good result against this sort of opposition" message, so that more or less tells you all you need to know about our chances in this one, but it's the last race of the season, so we're going to do our best and see how we finish in the end. So we're into the last 2.5 kilometers now. We're coming very close to catching the guy who started behind us and passed us earlier on in the race, which isn't a very good indicator of us submitting a good time, but on a positive note, our teammate Mauro Schmidt is currently in 4th place, so he did a pretty good time, as we just managed to repass our guy right on the line. But yeah, 30th place, 7 minutes and 21 seconds down of Julius Vandenberg, who's currently leading. About what you'd expect. We'll fast forward through the remaining riders and see where we end up when it's all said and done. So in the end, it was Andreas Leknesund of the Uno X Pro Cycling team who pulled off the upset and beat all the World Tour guys. Our best placed teammate was Mauro Schmidt, who ended up in 30th place, and Andy Schleck himself was way down the rankings in 177th. Although we did beat a decent number of riders, 23 riders we finished ahead of. But, I mean, that's about what you'd expect with a time trial of that length with our time trialing ability currently. So, not too bad, but we're not going to end the season with a victory in our last race. So that is it for the racing in our season with Leopard Pro Cycling. We ended up doing 58 days of racing. Some of the highlights include that 4th place at the UCI World Championships, 2nd on Mont Ventoux, our win at Le Tour de l'Avenir is up there. It's not going to be up here in this because it was a U23 race, but that was one of the highlights of the season for sure, I would say. Winning those 2 one-day races in Turkey were 2 very solid wins as well. And also ending off the season with a nice victory in Piccolo Lombardia was a good way to end things, I think. So, yeah, overall I'd say that's a pretty successful season. I think we got 11 wins in the end in our first season. Here's a look at where our attributes are after the racing is concluded in our first season, with 78 mountain, 74 hill. Definitely some room to improve before we're ready to contend for a Grand Tour, but that is what next season will be for. So now that that's taken care of, let's look at a few more things before we wrap up the season for good. So first of all, let's just check on how our team for next season, Efapel, is doing. They're currently ranked 26th in the team index, which is good enough to make the jump from Continental to Continental Pro. They actually look to be the only team, well, actually that's not true. One of 3 teams, along with Elkov Kasper and W52, who are set to make the jump from Continental to Pro Continental for next season. Any World Tour teams that are getting demoted? Looks like Cofidis is going down to Continental Pro. Yeah, that seems to be it. So, a little bit of shifting next season. I'm glad we were able to get a contract offer from one of the teams making the jump from Continental to Continental Pro, because that will open up some exciting potential races for us to do next year. And lastly, let's take one last look at the highlights page. So we've seen the first 2/3 of the season already, but we haven't seen the last bit of the season yet. So Simon Yates won the Vuelta ahead of Miguel Angel Lopez and Pello Bilbao. Yates very nearly won all 4 classifications, just too old, I guess, to win the Young Riders classification, but he took the points and the mountains as well, with David Gaudu taking the Best Young Riders jersey. In terms of the monuments, Jan Izagirre won Il Lombardia. Very big win for him, ahead of Bauke Mollema and David Gaudu. So Gaudu finished the season pretty strongly with the Best Young Riders jersey at the Vuelta and a 3rd place at Lombardia as well. In terms of the World Championships, we had an up-close view of Tom Dumoulin winning the road race, as we finished 4th in that one, but it was Geraint Thomas who took the time trial ahead of Filippo Ganna and Chad Haga of the United States. Here are all the national champions, if you want to look at that. Wout van Aert taking the jersey for Belgium. Jan Izagirre also won the Nationals, so good season for him. And I think that's pretty much it, pretty much everything to cover for the 2020 season. So that is the last episode of this year. Next time we have a video for Andy Schleck, he will be in a different uniform riding for Efapel. So given that the 2021 version of PCM is coming out at the beginning of June, either June 3rd or June 4th, I think. I'm thinking that I'm going to have to go through this next season with Efapel very quickly in order to have a chance to ride a Grand Tour before the new game comes out. So I have a couple of different ideas in terms of ways to do that. I think I'll probably make a video setting up the season and the schedule for Efapel, so I will reveal more then, but I think we might end up going through things a little bit more quickly and showing less of the Category 2 and Category 1 races. But yeah, if you have any suggestions or anything like that, feel free to leave them down in the comments section. I would not be opposed to taking on different ideas for how to go through things quickly, because basically I just want to get to the 3rd season where we'll likely be with a World Tour team so we can ride a Grand Tour or 2 and try and get a win with Andy Schleck, because that was our goal at the start of this series. So I want to try and do that before we move on to Pro Cycling Manager 21. But for everyone who has been here for the first season journey, thank you very much. I appreciate you tuning in. If anyone is a little bit newer, welcome aboard. We're just getting started, so I hope you enjoy what you have been seeing. But yeah, I'll be back next time with the first installment of the next season with Efapel, and we'll determine in that video basically how we're going to approach the season to make sure we get to a Grand Tour before Pro Cycling Manager 2020 has run its course. So thanks again, and I will see you next time.